When I got into comics, I was like, I don't want to color Spider-Man. There's so much webbing. I was like, I don't want to do webbing. I was like, that will drive me crazy. Hi, I'm Brian Reber, and today we'll be coloring Spider-Man Deadpool. So I always wanted to do comics when I was little. My dad is an oil painter, so I was always reading comics, drawing comics while my dad painted. Once I finished high school, I was taking my portfolio around and went and talked to Klaus Janson. He pulled out 2 color pinups that I did in marker, and he's like, man, if you could do this on the computer, you'd be professional. And I didn't want to do computer colors, so I stopped. I didn't know how to use computers. So I stopped making comics, and then in that time off, I learned computers, started doing IT support. Since I was doing IT, I had access to Photoshop, so I learned Photoshop basically as a side gig. I changed from IT to comics because I've always wanted to do comics, or I wanted to do video games. So I was like, well, I can move to California and be a texture artist for kind of a low salary, or I could stay doing IT and do comics at night. So I opted to do comics, and I started dabbling, and like 2 months later, I got my first professional gig. CB Cebulski, he gave me the gig for Runaways, and that was my first official series that no one else had touched. But I got the offer to do Runaways and Thor on the same day. As soon as I started coloring, I wanted to be a pro colorist. I've always been competitive. I'm the youngest of 3. Everyone around me was competitive, so it's just like, you know, feast or famine growing up in my family. The Reber family motto is like, we want to be the best at whatever we start doing 15 minutes later. So even with video games, as soon as I sit down in front of a video game, I want to be the master of that video game in like 15 minutes in. I play games with my kids now, so they're probably going to end up being just as competitive as I am because I'm already driving it into them. I do get competitive with other colorists. Things I think make a good colorist are being able to work with the artists. I always say that I don't have a style because almost every project I do, I try to adapt to the artist. The only consistency is my color selection and my palette. I created a palette for Photoshop on my first 3 projects, and I haven't added to it in about 15 years. When I get the pages in, I know what it's going to look like in my head. I usually send them off to get them flatted. I have a studio that does flatting for me. The flatting process is basically they go through and make solid shapes for everything that's on the line art so that I can just go and select it real easy, real fast. The way that I color very true color, so I'll color it very natural, and then at the end I'll go through and I'll adjust all the lighting and everything. I want to be the best at what I can do. That's just my competitive nature. I've always had an itch to compete in something, whether I'm good at it or not. So I started playing darts at least 10 years ago. It gives me a chance to get out and not think about working on comics, and not think about anything other than just, you know, hanging out, playing some darts. And it helps me get my competitive itch. My competitive nature is fading as I get older because I'm learning to settle and learning my limitations. But as far as me wanting to be the best I can be, as far as my coloring, I don't think that's ever going to change. Every page I touch, I want it to be the best that page can be. What I consider winning in this industry is that I'm still working. I don't think there's ever going to be an end game. As long as people are still asking me to work on projects, that to me is winning. Pretty sure I deleted all the Justin Bieber things off my... Yeah, I was going to print out a big headshot of Ryan Stegman and put it up on the board just to mess with him.